boy, here they come. Just a couple things first. With season ending, we have a lot of you that cover us every day throughout the season, our beat writers, Sam included. Just want to take an opportunity to, I know several like Casey and Joe who travel, you know, you got families, things. I know the commitment you make, it's not lost on us. We appreciate the professionalism you gave me, coaching staff, players, our PR staff, so I just want to say that. Also, I wanted to thank our Bulls broadcasters who do our TV, Neil and Stacy, radio Chuck and Bill, who you know, support us all the time. They do a terrific job. Our Bulls TV people have done a phenomenal job this year, just, you know, getting our story out. Brad and his crew do a tremendous job. And finally, this year, I want to thank Tim and his staff, Bulls PR, that have done a phenomenal job for me and our entire group, our coaches, our players. So thank you to all of them. Just a few remarks before you ask some questions. You know, 10 months ago, we made a decision to redefine our direction. And we knew there would be ups and downs this season. We knew that we would encounter some things that were going to be difficult, and we did. With that said, I think we're in a better place today than we were at this time last year. And I think we have an opportunity to grow as an organization starting today and starting this summer to become the type of basketball team that we want to become. We dealt with a lot of things this year. I think last year, Fred and his staff set the culture correctly in the summertime with the work that they put in with our players. That got sideways a little bit when we had the incident early before the season even opened with Bobby and Nico. But even that had a silver lining in it that allowed us to get Lowry minutes that he may not have gotten early in the season. But our staff dealt with some real hurdles. We had some injuries this year that were uncommon to some key players, especially Chris Dunn. Chris, you know, he had the finger that he broke severely, and then he had the concussion when he took the hard fall, and then he got the turf toe. So, you know, our coaches had to deal with that. And then, you know, we made a decision at the All-Star break to, you know, we were 21 and 35, I believe, at the time, and we made a decision to play our younger guys with the belief and still believe that it was the right thing to do for our future. And so I want to give our coaching staff, Fred and Jim and all of them, I think they handled everything well. And I'll tell you this, I've mentioned this once before, but you know, we were 3-20, played a game in Indiana that we played great for 44 minutes and ended up losing. We traveled to Charlotte the next day, and I sat with the staff, and they were as positive and upbeat about our group as I was actually surprised. I thought I'd let them vent and tell me what was wrong, but they were great. And to kind of give you some perspective on that, I was on the last trip of the year to Brooklyn, and I was able to sit in a little bit on the film session that they had prior to that game, and they were still teaching. I mean, they were going at our guys, trying to get them to play the right way. So they deserve a lot of credit for the way they consistently dealt with tough situations, but how they kept at it with their work and trying to get the best out of our players. Now, when we talked about last year, when we made when we redefined our direction, our hope was that we would put out a team that played hard and one where we developed our young players. And, you know, for the most part, our guys played very hard this year. Now, we had some games where it got ugly, but that happens with a lot of teams. But they did play hard, and, you know, going forward, that's just an expectation for us. So as we go forward now, I think this is probably as important a summer as we've had in a really long time. You know, we made the deal last year, but that was at the end of June. And, you know, now we have key components in place that are going to be here. The majority of this team and roster is going to come back because we feel we're headed in the right direction, and we understand that the growth and the internal development is going to be the thing that helps us become a better basketball team. We're going to preach patience. It doesn't mean we're not going to be looking for ways to get better, but a lot of it's going to come internally. We need, and I mentioned this to our team after Fred spoke to them last night, we need Zach LaVine to be a better basketball player. We need to have a great summer. We need Chris Dunn to have a great summer and come back a better player. Lauri Markkanen, Bobby Portis, you go down the line. They have to put in the time, and we're confident that they will. What we're trying to build is a basketball team, one that plays the right way, one that represents the organization the right way, and with the opportunity to have our young guys grow this offseason, with the opportunity in the draft to add two pieces to that equation, we feel really good about our direction. I'm never going to oversell anything because we have got a long way to go. And I know as well as anyone that in this league to win when you're young, it's very difficult. But when I look at this year, it was disjointed in that we didn't have our full roster together for much of the season. And so our goal, and again, mentioned this to them last night, our goal is for them to get a great summer in, be healthy, and come back when September rolls around and we all come in this gym and we're working towards training camp, that we've got to hit the ground running, and we've got to be a team that is together and shows our fan base and this organization that we are going in the right direction. So this summer's as big a summer as we've had in a long, long time. So with that said, I will open it up to questions.
John, much has been written about how little Zach, Chris, and Lauri played together. Where's your confidence level and comfort level in those three excelling on the court at the same time?
Well, it's high because we don't have a big sample size yet, and you know it's very hard for a coaching staff to put together to create an identity with guys when the lineups are so disjointed in and out, and it just happened that way. You know, when there was a time where Zach and Chris played well together, a couple games. It was when Zach first came back, and you know he's on the minutes restriction, but we played well, and then Chris goes down in that Golden State game. I think you can throw Robin into that mix because Robin's obviously an important piece to our future too. The four of them, I think they only played 6 games together. So that's one thing we have to find out, though. That was part of the deal when we made it. We need to find out if how those guys play together, and that's why I said this summer's important. And then heading into the beginning of the year, we need them all healthy so that we can have a good training camp and we can find a way to get them playing the right way together. But they're all talented guys, and we all know in this league that you need high-level talent, superstar-type guys to lead your team in terms of direction. So, the promise is there. It's just this year it was disjointed because of a lot of different things.
So, John, given that, do you feel that you still have some evaluating maybe of sorts to do with Chris and Zach, just because you didn't see a whole lot of them, of course, in these last few weeks?
No, I don't think it's as much evaluating. In fact, Chris Dunn had stretches this year that he was terrific, and but again, he has to improve. We still have a young basketball team. The challenge for us and our staff is to come up with a system of play that takes the strengths of our players and puts them in positions to succeed. That's what basketball is all about, and I'm confident they will do that. A lot of it is on the individual player to work and to become better. So, we saw, and you mentioned Zach. Our goal this year was just to get him playing basketball again. He had a significant injury, and we dealt with Derek, who had the same injury, and we're sensitive to how it affects a player and how difficult it can be for them to come back. So our whole goal for Zach was just to play, and so he did get back there on the floor. I think historically, guys who come back from ACLs are better the second year, and it goes to the fact that Zach needs to be healthy. He needs to have a great summer and come ready to go to training camp. He's going to have to be in great basketball shape, which, when you're coming off that type of injury, haven't played in 10 or 11 months, it's hard to be in the basketball shape you need to be in. So he, along with our other guys, they have to be in the best basketball shape they can possibly be. That's on us to demand it.
You mentioned that you're going to add 2 first-round assets. You, and even more so Gar, have seen this draft. Can you, in general, talk about how good this draft and how deep this draft might be?
Well, we're confident that we'll find 2 players we like in this draft. And, we're going to find out, in a month where we pick with, in the top 10, and that will obviously be a significant pick. But there's talent, and it's on, myself and our staff to, we've done a lot of work, but now you get into, once the pre-draft camp starts and the interviewing process starts, that's when you get into, to some of the deeper things with players. But I'm confident we will be able to find some pieces to help us.
John, how uncomfortable did it make you all season long, the ongoing conversation about the benefits of losing? And can you say with any degree of certainty that that will not be part of the rhetoric next year?
We did this year what we felt was in the long-term best interest of the Bulls. It's not a situation that any of us want to ever be in again. And it goes against everything as a competitive person that you believe in. But it's the way the system's set up. And to be very honest, we believe we've done it the right way. We last summer embarked on a rebuild. We had a very young roster. Every time we put out a lineup, even after the All-Star break, it was to watch players play and young players play. And I believe this totally, having played in the league and been around the league. The only way to really find out about players is to give them consistent minutes over a consistent amount of time, a consistent amount of games. That doesn't mean 3 or 4 or 5. You have to give guys 20, 25 games. That has to be the sample size. And an example for us this year was, last year we made the trade. We traded Doug McDermott. We got Cameron Payne back in the deal. And we threw Cam into the mix. It didn't work. And he broke his foot. He rehabbed well. We needed to see. And from my seat today, having given him that opportunity after the All-Star break to play the games he played in and the role he got to play, I feel really good about going into next season with Chris Dunn as our starter and Cameron Payne as our backup. I think Cameron showed us that, look, again, all these young guys have a lot of things to work on and clean up, and our staff will work with them. But Cameron showed a competitiveness to him. He showed an ability to push the ball, probably better than any guard we've had in a while. And he showed a defensive edge to him that I think will help us going forward. So my point is this, that we feel we went about it the right way. Our intentions were to see what we had and develop our young guys. But David, we don't ever want to be in this position again. And honestly, I don't think we will. I think next year, if we stay healthy, I mean, let's face it, had Chris Dunn not hurt his toe in Memphis and Zach started not experiencing some tendonitis, we would have won more games. It's just a fact. I think we had that kind of talent. So I don't expect us to be in that position again. I have great faith in the young group that we have, but they've got to grow, and it's not going to be easy. It's a challenge for them and for all of us, but like I said at the beginning, I feel better today about our direction and our position than I did a year ago.
John, you talked about Zach being a centerpiece of the trade this time last year, and now he seems to be the biggest question mark with restricted free agency coming up. How do you balance out how restricted free agency works with the fact that he was recovering from an ACL injury?
Well, that'll all play itself out. Zach will have options. It's the way the system is in place. So he's restricted. Other teams can talk to him, and that'll all play out. We anticipated that he would have ups and downs when he came back. That, given again our experience with Derek coming off an ACL, those type of things. So again, he's going to have a really good summer. But he's young. He's committed. He has a good work ethic. So I mean, last year at this, or in June when we made the deal, he'd had the ACL, and we knew he wasn't going to play for us right away, and we knew he was going to get him back at some point. But I think he answered some questions for us. He had some really good moments, but he's got a ways to go, and that's his responsibility to work and become a better player. And again, after seeing those guys and talking to them a little bit last night and seeing the looks in their eyes, I have belief that they have the right attitude about what this summer means to all of them.
John, given you mentioned to follow up on Zach a little bit, you pointed out he now has to have a better season. He has to get better. You indicated you're not disappointed in the season he had, and maybe it's injury. Does there have to be a pecking order among those three players from the trade, sort of, not to compare them that way, but like Jordan, Pippen, Grant, that somebody has to emerge to be the best player, and then as an order of how those players perform?
Well, I think there's always some type of pecking order on a team, but that doesn't mean that one guy. I mean, well, look, we grew up I played with Michael. Michael was, he's the greatest player of all time, so he was naturally the guy. But it's not like that on every team, and I think it's the responsibility for all of our guys to they have to be themselves and play within the team concept, and so you can't get caught up in terms of this guy is your finisher. This guy. I mean, that's not what team basketball is about. What you want is great talent. You want guys who believe in each other. I can go back to all those days we won. It was, Michael was obviously the greatest player, but he trusted the guys around him, and that's the beauty of our game, is when you get a group of guys that trust each other and believe in each other. And so when the end of the game's on the line and Chris Dunn's open and Zach's covered, Chris Dunn's the guy. Or maybe one night it's Zach's the guy, Lowry's the guy. Maybe it's Bobby Portis. I mean, that's what team is. So I don't get caught up at all in who's the so-called man. I do think that our guys they'll stand out by their work and how they perform. And when you get a group that plays together, it generally results in a group that wins games at a higher level, and that's our goal, obviously.
Yeah, Fred, you mentioned at the top.
I'm John, I'm not Fred.
I'm sorry. I'm asking about Fred, my bad. John, you mentioned at the top the job the coaching staff has done overall, but with Fred specifically, can you say definitively today that he will be back? And in general, for the season, what did you like about what he did specifically, and what would you like to see him do next year?
Yeah, Fred will be back, yes, absolutely. And I think Fred just kind of got his feet underneath him more this year. I think this group, the way he wants to play, pushing the basketball, this group's suited his style more. And just from my observations watching practices and games, you could see that comfort level. And like anything, we all need to grow. I need to grow in my role. I think every year as a coach that you gain experience and you learn things. And I'm sure you can talk to Fred about what he's learned over this year as opposed to last year. But I thought Fred and our staff did a tremendous job of keeping the group together. When you lose, it's not an easy thing. I mean, coaches, players, coaches more than anybody, they live and die every game, and you want to put a team out there that you enjoy coaching. And I know Fred enjoyed coaching this group. I think this. You go back to last summer. Fred and his staff set the tone last summer when our guys came back, and they just had the everyday attitude of we're working. That needs to carry over, which it will. Our guys need to continue to buy in, which we believe they will. And so again, this is what gives us a good feeling about our direction, is that things are more tied together organizationally than they have been in a long time, with not just our coaching staff but our players, and that's what's exciting about it.
John, did you see enough from Chris to show that he is the long-term point guard for this organization?
Well, those are questions that are you want a definitive answer. What we saw from Chris Dunn this year is really encouraging. When he was healthy, he showed some real competitiveness. I think and this has been talked to by our coaching staff, myself and Gar included. One area Chris really needs to get better is finishing. He's shown the ability to get to the lane, get to the basket. His numbers in finishing around the rim are lower than they should be. For a point guard, if you can get to the basket, you need to finish at a higher level. So, and that can only help your team. So we saw a lot of good things from Chris. I think Chris has he has an opportunity to be one of the better defensive guards in the league. He certainly showed that at times this year. The toughest thing for young guys is to be consistent in everything they do, and that's what we need. As much as anything, that's what we need from this group going forward. Coaches trust the guys that are consistent, and rightfully so. So we need this group to be more consistent in how they play. And again, they're young. You expect maturity from them, and you expect them to grow and develop. And we're on the right track there.
John, you talked about Robin maybe being, a part of the future, and obviously it was unusual to sit a healthy guy like that to see what you had. Is he really part of the future, and how does he fit? And did taking him out kind of hurt maybe the development of some guys like Lowry, who plays well with him?
Well, no, Robin's a part of our future. Yeah, he has 1 year left on his contract. We respect Robin's professionalism, the way he plays. And no, I would not say it hurt our development of our young players. In fact, it gave us an opportunity to observe and evaluate. Robin's a pro, and it was a difficult situation. But, our intention when we came out of the break was to continue to play Robin. It's been told we dealt with the league on some things and had a lot of conversations on how to do it. But, Robin at times said, hey, look, play Cristiano, play Noah Vonleh. It's fine. We know what we have in Robin Lopez. And again, so much of this was based on, I use the word disjointed because it was in a lot of ways. We had injuries that were different, so we never had our entire group together for long periods of times, and that was hard. But Robin, we do view Robin as a part of our future. I think even as much as the game has changed, Robin gives us kind of a foundation, a solid guy that we can count on. I just talked about it. You know what you're going to get from Robin Lopez every night. You're going to get effort, you're going to get rebounding, you're going to get some scoring around the basket. I know the time that he's been, not playing, he's been working on his perimeter shot, extending his range. I said it to our players last night. I believe you can grow. I don't care how old you are as a player. You can grow in some way. It can be mentally. It can be some skill level. So yeah, he fits our team and our culture.
John, in that same vein, now that you've had a chance to look at your team as a whole and you know what you're getting out of a lot of these guys, what voids do you hope to fill in the upcoming draft? Well,
I think we need to look at the wing position. That would be an ideal spot. Size and length at the wing is a shooting component. A defensive component would be something that if you're looking at an area that we would like to improve, that would be it. But depending on where we draft, it's hard to overlook talent, even when you're looking at maybe a specific need. And so, again, that process, we're still over 2 months away from the draft. We have a lot of work to do. But, our game has become, positions, not that they're going by the wayside, but the lines are blurred. You no longer really have, center, power forward. I mean, you need versatility. Our game has changed that much. And so we can use versatile players, guys that have length and size and shooting component, those type of things.
John, where have you seen Lowry's development the most this year, and do you already view him as a cornerstone for the team going forward?
Yeah, I probably haven't spoken enough about Lowry today. He is a cornerstone, and I've said this many times this year, And, you know, we loved him in the draft, obviously, but we didn't know what we had. And I'm incredibly impressed with the poise that he plays with. He rarely gets outside of himself. And but Lowry, like Zach and Chris Dunn, all our guys, he has so much room to grow, and that's really what's exciting about it. You know, when I assess Lowry's game, you know, he obviously proved he can play on the perimeter with his shooting component. Last summer, he played with his national team. We didn't get him in our building to do much of anything. He needs this summer to really work on his body, to get a base to him, get stronger. He needs to find areas on the floor inside the three-point line where he can really be effective. He's going to need to tighten up his handle, you know, where he can maybe take one or two quick dribbles, pull up. His footwork in isolation situations. You know, with his size and his ability to shoot the ball, he should be able to get in areas on the floor where he can really dominate a game. So, but he's a young man, and he's just 1 year in the league, but he, at least from my seat, he exceeded expectations. And we believe we have a good one there, and a foundational piece for everything we want to be and the way the game's being played. So yeah, we're lucky. We feel very lucky that he was part of that deal that we made last summer.
John, you stated you don't want to be in this position again where the franchise has to lose to win long term. Given the landscape of the Eastern Conference, how wide do you think the gap is from where the Bulls are today to being consistently competitive and a perennial playoff team, so we're not talking about this in April instead of the playoffs?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know how far away that is. You know, you never know what other teams are going to do, but all we can do is worry about ourselves. I do know that if you look at how we're set up with our youth, how we're going to add more youth to it, you know, Philly's the model in terms of, you know, what they did for all those years. Now look at them. They got some high draft picks. They hit on a few of them, and now they're in a position. The other thing that we've tried to do is, you know, manage the cap appropriately so that we will have opportunities to spend when the time is right. That will be dictated by circumstances. When we went on the path of that we did last summer, you know, we don't want to just we're not going to go out and try to sign some older player just to fill a need. We have to remain patient and disciplined in the approach we have. So that's going to be important. But again, if I sit here and say to myself that if Zach LaVine, Chris Dunn, Larry Markin all improve significantly over this next year, Bobby Portis keeps growing as a player. Denzel Valentine, who found his niche a little bit this year, keeps growing as a player. Campaign gives us something, and we add pieces to it. We're going to be a better basketball team, and we're going to be young, we're going to be athletic, we're going to be more skilled, and it's going to be a team that I think can play at a high level. And for coaches and players, their goal has to be every year to be as good as they can be a playoff team, be whatever you can be. It's my job, Gar's job, in communicating with Jerry and Michael, that we just keep this in perspective and do it the right way, that we don't get going too fast, get too far ahead of ourselves, and make poor decisions that bind us long term. And that's what, in my position, I have to guard against and will be vigilant about.
If you could look back to last September, what did you expect this season to be, and is there anything you would have liked to have done differently?
I really didn't know what to expect, other than I've always believed that when you're a young team, it's hard to win in this league. But with that said, you know, we never really got our entire group together based on circumstances. Injuries, Zach coming back and then out. So we never had together. Doing different, I'm not sure. I'm not going to look back at it like that. I think when we made the decision, you know, to trade Jimmy and get what we got in return, we were just looking forward. And I just, more than anything, we need to come back healthy and ready to go and see what we have. You know, but I'm I'm confident, knowing what Zach did in Minnesota that last year he was there, knowing what Chris Dunn did for us before he had the freak injuries that he had, and Lowry's obviously what we want in a player. I think we can really get a head start on things when we get back together in September.
Last one. Well, if we'd done this right, Sam would have got the last question.
I know.
But last question, John. Everybody said all the right things publicly about what's coming with Zach's contract negotiations, and obviously you guys didn't trade Jimmy Butler to let Zach walk in restricted free agency. That said, historically you guys have taken probably more of a passive than proactive approach with restricted free agency. How will you generally approach his restricted free agency, and how difficult do you envision those negotiations being?
Well, the market dictates a lot, and how things go. I think the market has tightened up a little bit in the last couple of years since the spike. But we obviously value Zach a lot, and we think he's, a part of our future. But he has the opportunity to explore things. Gar will get with his agent at the appropriate time and begin discussions about that. And it will play out the way it will play out. But we think he fits the direction we're going, and we have great faith in his ability to, that he's going to have a great summer in terms of his work and his improvement as a player, and we'll see. I mean, it's up in the air and not defined yet, but we'll do it the way we feel is right, and we'll have good communication with Zach and his agent. Thank you.